Hello and welcome to your practice. Today our posture is bridge posture, and so we're going to be starting on our backs. You will want a block for this practice, or maybe even two, because at the very end I'm going to show you a really wonderful restorative version. If you don't have blocks on hand, you could use a firm couch pillow or two of those instead. So to begin, we're going to roll down onto our backs. And you can do this holding on to one leg as a lever, or if you want more of a core challenge, you can try rolling down hands free. Coming down one vertebra at a time, eventually letting your shoulders tuck back and down, and just placing your feet on the ground. Let's do a few windshield wipers here, taking your feet about mat width distance apart, and just swishing the legs slowly from side to side. This is going to start to release the lower back a little bit, and it also provides a nice little opening stretch for the hip flexors, and they are going to be stretched out when we're in bridge posture, so that's a nice prep. And take just a couple more. And then we'll come back to center and just bring your feet to a space that's about hip width distance apart. So your ASIS, which are these bony protrusions at the front of your pelvis, your knees, and your ankles are all in the same line, pretty much. Some people like a little bit wider, but you don't want to go too wide or your knees will tend to pitch in. So everything pretty much joint aligned here. And then you also want to bring your heels in fairly close, because ideally we're looking for a plumb line from the knees down to the ankles. So a really good test to see if you're getting close to that is to reach out with your arms and see if your fingers, your middle fingers, can touch your heels, or at least they're close. Of course, we have different arm lengths, so that changes things a little bit. But you don't want your feet to be way, way out here. You want to have them in right in a space underneath your knees. And this prepares us. We're in the setup for bridge. The only thing really left to do is to do a final check to make sure your shoulders are back and down, because we want those to be the point of contact rather than the back of your neck or your upper back. Make sure there's some space under the back of your neck. The back of your head should just be gently resting on the floor. And spread your toes, spread your hands. Take a big inhalation to prepare. And then we'll roll up into our first bridge posture, peeling up and pressing into the ground with all 10 fingers, with the balls of your feet, and with your heels. Imagine while you're here that you're squeezing a yoga block between your knees. And we'll hold for another breath, looking straight up at the ceiling above you rather than tucking the chin and looking down towards your body. And when you're ready, start to roll down, imagining your spine to be a strand of pearls and trying to drop one bead at a time. And then we'll roll up again. Another analogy I use is to peel up like you're peeling a sticker off of its backing, little bit at a time. And let's roll down. We'll do one more like that. And then roll down. And just take a breath. Notice how you feel. So for this second round, we're going to add some arm variations. So begin by making sure that you're set up, feeling secure, pressing into your feet. Your shoulders are rolled back and down. And then we'll press into the feet, but this time start to reach your arms up and overhead all the way to the floor behind you, if you can. Then start to roll back down, bringing your arms down to the ground beside you. And keep going with those. Inhaling as you lift everything up and reach overhead. And exhaling as you roll down and bring the arms down. And this is a real coordinated effort here because you've got the body moving at one speed, your arms moving at a slightly different speed, and then you're breathing along with both. All of it sort of syncing up into this wonderful flow. Breathing in. And breathing out. We'll come down all the way and just pause there. If your shoulders are tending to round forward, broaden across the chest and reset. If your feet are starting to slip away, edge them back in closer. And now let's do an alternating arm variation. So just picking one arm, and as you roll up into your bridge, reaching one arm up overhead, and then bring it down by your side. And then switch to the other arm, getting a little brain balancing, asymmetrical movement in here. Alternating each time. We'll do one more of those. And then come down. Now, if you have a block handy, grab that and place it right between your legs, just above your knees. So it doesn't have to be between the knees, but rather between your inner thighs. This is going to help us to really fire up and increase awareness in the adductor muscles, or the muscle group that squeezes your legs towards each other. So from here, we'll keep our hands down this time and just roll up and squeeze that block. We'll hold for 3 breaths. And then come down. And then take the block out. We'll roll back up. Imagine that the block is still there. You can stay in place or try lifting one foot. You can do this with a bent knee or straighten your leg all the way up like a telephone pole. Holding for 3, 2, 1, and then bring that foot down, lift up, and roll down. And we'll of course do that on the other side. Rolling up, lift the other leg, maybe stretch it up, and hold for 3, 2, 1, and then bring it down. Little lift of the hips, and roll back to the earth. Take a breath. Now we're going to add a chest expansion to our bridge. So roll up again. And of course you can stay with your hands at your sides. And even if that's what you're choosing to do, just try rolling one shoulder back a little further and then the other. Feeling a broadening across the chest and a little bit of retraction in the scapula. Squeezing your shoulder blades together like you're trying to squeeze the juice out of an orange. And if you're feeling like it might be possible, you can bend your elbows here and grab your wrists, or even interlace your hands. Maybe even bringing the heels of your hands together. These are all possibilities. You don't have to do any of them. Just see what feels just right. Take a couple more breaths here. And then release your grip if you've got it. Widen the shoulders back out. And then slowly roll back to the ground. All right, after all of that hard work, your legs should be fired up. And then this leads me to my favorite version of bridge, which is a supported bridge. So grab your block. And if you've got 2 blocks, have the other one handy in case you want to use it. Then come up into your bridge just long enough that you can slide that block right under your sacrum. Your sacrum is below the curve of your lower back. And it's that flat area that's perfect for a block. And you'll know your block is in a supportive place if you can lift your legs up into a tabletop and you feel really, really great there. You don't want it to be here in your lower back, get this funky forward pelvic tilt, and it just feels really challenging there. You really want it to be right underneath your sacrum. So you can try tabletop position and you feel secure. Then just hang out there. This gives us a nice little bit of traction in the lumbar spine. We're creating space between the vertebrae. They tend to get really compressed from standing or sitting. And this is giving a sort of spaciousness in that area instead. And if you're not feeling enough, you want a little bit of a bigger cascade, you can add the second block. Or if you don't have 2 blocks, you can turn your block up onto a higher setting. Remember, your blocks have 3 settings. And this is a position you can stay in for a few minutes. Just let your body have that gentle stretch of the hip flexors, your fronts of your thighs. You get some inversion benefits here. I like to add a few variations. You can add a figure 4 variation, crossing one ankle over your opposite thigh. Take a few breaths there. And then switch sides. You can try, if you want a really deep hip flexor stretch, you can try stretching one leg out. And if that feels like too much with double blocks or a high setting, remember at any point you can return down to a lower setting. Always adapt in your practice. Stretch the other hip flexors. Bring it back in. And then finally, we'll take a little legs up an imaginary wall. So engage your belly and lift your knees into the air. This is a great point to stay. Or see how it feels to straighten your legs up. And just take some time here. When you're ready to come out, bend one knee and bring your foot back to the ground. And then the other foot back. If you've got 2 blocks, go ahead and remove one. And if your block is on a high setting, bring it down to the low setting and just pause there for another breath. And then eventually lift up and remove your block. Lower down slowly and just let yourself settle. The ground feels so good after all of that. Take your time to roll over onto one side and bring your top hand to the earth for some support. And slowly press yourself all the way back up when you're ready to a comfortable seated position. And that brings us to the end of this posture breakdown for bridge. You can keep flowing right into a longer practice if you would like, or if that brings you to the end of your practice for today, I encourage you just to thank your body, your mind for showing up, and I thank you for practicing with me. I hope you enjoy your day or your night. Namaste.